So let me go into this transformer a little bit more here. As you can see, is a Lamborghini Countach, very much like G1 Sideswipe here. In fact, is a repaint, redeco of the same transformer. This guy's from 1984. This guy's from 1985. And as you can see, they're both basically the same toy with the exception of the color and the siren bar that's on top of Red Alert. What I had to do with this toy was I had to go and look for parts where I have to get the wheels, get the arm, get the feet, and as you can see, I still need one spoiler. And pretty much what I had to do is I had to take everything apart, and I'll show you how to do that later, and take the part from the donor bot, take the pertinent pieces, and then put it into Red Alert here. So the most basic tool to fixing your transformer, of course, are screwdrivers. I have several sizes of screwdrivers in front of me, and a lot of you may be familiar with this screwdriver set. I'm pretty sure you all came across it at one point or another. I'm confident you can find these screwdriver sets at your local dollar store or Walmart or Canadian Tire. And I want to talk about the two types of screwdrivers I use most. The first are the Phillips. I use three sizes of Phillips. I use the 3/8, ½ inch, and the 5/8 screwdriver. And you'll notice that for a lot of your transformers, I'll use Prowl here as an example. A lot of screw holes are 3/8 of an inch. So this would be the screwdriver you use most to get to the screw and take the screw out. And when you do that, you have to keep in mind that you don't want to apply too much force, because when you do that, you'll strip the screws. I also use a standard flathead screwdriver. And for the most part, you'll see some toys with flathead with your standard screwdriver head configuration. But for the more conventional use, I sometimes use this as a pry bar. Now, I also use a plastic pry bar for the more delicate pieces, like say for instance, windshield, or in Red Alert's case, for the side panel where the door and the clear plastic is connected. And I'll show you how to do this in a future video. But for the most part, I use these flatheads as pry bars to get the really tough to get out pieces whenever you do your repairs. Next, I have your scalpel. And scalpel is used for two things: to cut out nubs that may be causing problems in your transformations. I'll give you an example. Sometimes when you have a transformer and you have a part that rotates, like Prowl here, sometimes they would have pieces of plastic that kind of hangs out due to mold imperfections. What I would do is I would use a scalpel and cut out those little flashing, and make sure that when it rotates, that those little pieces don't get in the way. The other thing I use it for is whenever there is a screw that you have to access, like pretty much like what I show you with Prowl, sometimes it's covered up with a sticker. The best example I can show you right now is Sideswipe. Sideswipe, as you can see, he has these two black panels which grant you access to the feet by taking this part out. But sometimes you have to just cut and score the sticker around it so that you can have access to a screw hole. I'll give you an example. With this one, you just gotta cut it very slightly, or lift the sticker in this case. You wanna make sure you do it so that you don't damage the sticker. As you can see, it's starting to slowly lift. So you gotta be patient, because if you're rushing through this, you're gonna cut the sticker off. Unless you have repro labels or a set of extra stickers, you may wanna do this very carefully and in a bright environment so you can see where you're cutting. So this is somewhat time consuming, but over time, if you have the patience, the sticker will lift. As you can see, it's starting to lift. Okay, so once it lifts, you can see there's a piece that kind of curls up. What I would then use is a pair of tweezers. And the tweezer would pretty much take advantage of that curl that you just made, that I just made here. And very much like when you use the scalpel, you lift up the sticker. Now, sometimes you have to go back and forth between the two tools so that you have that that lip. Now the reason why I'm not concerned about wrecking the sticker is because I do have an extra set of stickers, but I do like to, you know, for the sake of some of the audience members who may not have an extra set of stickers, you can either use a heat gun to kind of get the glue loose and use the same process, or just do what I'm doing in case you don't have a heat gun, and just slip the sticker very, very gently. Again, patience is the key. So I'm just lifting the stickers from all edges, making sure that I don't damage it in case you don't have an extra set of stickers to replace this. Go very, very carefully. And sometimes when you do this, you do peel back some of the backing layer, the sticking layer, but that's fine. Because as long as you don't damage the surface of the sticker, you can still reuse it. So you can see it's starting to peel off. And again, it takes a lot of patience, but you'll get there. So as you can see, some of the backing of the sticker came off, but that's fine. You can always just re-glue it. But this is what you do to get access to the screw that's behind the decal. And of course, once you have access to that, you gently take the screw out and make sure when you do that, you don't damage the sticker any further. And set the screw aside. And what that does is it lets you take this panel off, where it lets you get into the interior of the robot part, where you can get access to the inside. And as you can see, there's other parts that you need to take out, but you get the idea. Now I'm going to talk about the parts of the robot itself. So you have to remember that a transformer is basically two toys in one. You have a vehicle that transforms into a humanoid form. In this case, Sideswipe transforms from a car, a Lamborghini Countach. And as you can see, for the most part, the Sideswipe I have is still in working order. Oops. The leg just fell off because I just took the panel out. Like a lot of G1 transformers, they're all very simple. But as you can see, this Sideswipe I have right now, this junker. A junker is what the G1 fans, G1 Transformers fans, refer to broken toys. The toys that we have in front of us, they're all broken. And in this case, I'm going to make this Sideswipe my acceptor robot. And everything, and all these other Transformers, all these other Sideswipes, and G1 and G2, they're going to be the donor bots. So what you see today is, you can obviously see that this Sideswipe is missing an arm, missing the feet, and he is also missing, or have one of the spoilers chipped. But just for today, I'm going to show you how to replace the arm. I'm going to take the G1 Sideswipe because it's the only one that I have with the arm intact. And I'm going to transplant the feet from the same G2 Sideswipe onto them because they're actually basically the same parts. And I want to show you how to do it. I memorized a lot of these parts growing up because that's what I've been doing for like the last several decades. I've been taking these things apart and putting them back together. And I have most of these parts memorized. So you'll see that I'll use some of these parts interchangeably because they are basically the same robot. So as you can tell, G1 Sideswipe is almost identical to G2 Sideswipe, and they're almost also identical to G1 Red Alert. So going back to the tools that I have here, you'll see that I also have these tools. So I show you the screwdrivers, I shown you the tweezers, showing you the scalpel, and I'm going to show you the watchmaker tools. So you may have seen these from time to time. What this tool does is that it lets you take apart pins, and I'll show you from Inferno. You see that his arm, there's a pin right here, and unlike a screw where you use your screwdriver and take the screw out, this fits in with friction, and the pin is always a little bigger than the opening, the hole of where the pin goes. So use Grapple, for instance. Grapple and Inferno, they're basically the same robot. So you can see that the hole here fits into the shoulder joint, but the pin that goes between the shoulder joint and the arm is slightly bigger than the opening for both. And this is because it would give it that snug fit for you to be able to articulate the shoulder and the arm without it being too floppy or loose. So as you can see, the shoulder piece is loose because the pin between it, the plastic where it houses the pin, is a little worn off, so that's why this is floppy. Whereas the shoulder pin or the shoulder joint and the arm, it's still pretty tight because the plastic that's housing it is still in pretty good shape. So what you need to do with the watchmaker's tools is you can put it on the angle here. Typically the pin, you would hit it from the top to the bottom. So you would have this little pin here. And there's two ways of using these pins. If you're patient enough, you can set it on an angle and slowly tap this out until the pin comes out. Or conversely, if your part is small enough and it's hard for you to mount it onto the angle, there's this other tool where you put the part on the bed like this, and you would use a screw here, the screw mechanism, and gradually push the pin out. Now you probably can see on the table I have several of these pin pushers, these parts, and they're for different sizes of pins. What you can do is you can take this piece out, take the housing off of this, and then you take the shell out, and then you just replace it with either a smaller pin pusher or a larger pin pusher. Put it back, screw it back in, and put this back in there. And again, this tool is used specifically for pushing out the pins that you would see that are used in putting together transformers. You can typically get these also at the dollar store. A lot of times when you go down the hardware aisle section of your local dollar store, they would have these available. They would have the hammer, the angle, this rack system, and the pins. And again, I want to reiterate some of the tools I use to pry some of the really hard to get parts. And when you're prying your parts out from your transformers, you gotta always remember, do not use excessive force. It's very much like the G1 instructions. It always instructs you not to use excessive force for anything. You gotta keep in mind that even though the transformers in front of me, which are from the 1984 to 85 era, which is season 1 and season 2, even though they have metal parts, the plastic parts are very fragile. Best example are the Datsuns, the Fairlady Datsuns. You have Prowl, Blue Streak, and Smokescreen. As you all know, any collector can tell you, their windshield and the rear windshield are very hard to find intact because they're so easy to break. So never use more than enough or more force than you have to.